Have you ever been sitting quietly, maybe watching TV, reading a book, or just resting in your chair, and suddenly your heart starts racing for no reason at all? No warning, no explanation, just this strange fluttering in your chest that makes you freeze and think, what was that? And maybe it happened again the next day, and the day after that. You told yourself it was probably just stress, or maybe too much coffee, or simply getting older. But what if your body was actually trying to tell you something much more specific? What if that racing heart, that tightness in your chest, that feeling like you suddenly can't catch your breath, was your body sending you a very clear warning signal? Because here's the thing, millions of people over 50 experience exactly this, and most of them never find out the real reason why. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you today could genuinely change how you feel every single day. Let me ask you something. How often do you feel your heart doing something it probably shouldn't? That little flutter, that sudden thump, that moment where your heart seems to skip a beat or speed up out of nowhere. Maybe it happens at rest. Maybe it wakes you up at night. Maybe it comes with a strange shortness of breath, like you just climbed a flight of stairs even though you've been sitting still for an hour. If any of that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. Studies suggest that heart palpitations become significantly more common after the age of 50. And most people, doctors included, simply chalk it up to aging, stress, or anxiety. And sometimes that's exactly what it is. But here's what many people don't realize. A surprisingly large number of people experiencing these symptoms, especially people over 50, are actually dealing with something completely different. Something that has nothing to do with their heart at all. Something that starts quietly, builds slowly, and can go completely undetected for months, or even years. Here's where things start to get interesting. When people come in with heart palpitations and shortness of breath, the first instinct, naturally, is to look at the heart, run an ECG, check blood pressure, look at cholesterol, and in many cases, everything comes back completely normal. The heart looks fine, the arteries look fine, blood pressure is reasonable. And yet the palpitations keep happening. The breathlessness keeps coming back. The fatigue never really goes away. So what's actually going on? Well, researchers and cardiologists started noticing something. A pattern, a common thread among patients, particularly older patients, whose heart symptoms couldn't be explained by the usual suspects. And what they found was surprising. The problem wasn't in the heart at all. It was in the fuel the heart was running on. Now, before I tell you exactly what that means, I want you to think about something for a moment. Your heart is a muscle, and like every muscle in your body, it needs energy to function. It beats roughly 100,000 times every single day. It never stops. It never takes a break. It is the hardest working muscle you have. And to do that job, it needs a very specific type of fuel to convert food into usable energy. Without that fuel, something interesting starts to happen. The heart doesn't just get tired. It starts to behave erratically. It struggles to maintain its rhythm. It works harder than it should just to do the same job. And the rest of your body, your lungs, your muscles, your brain, starts to feel the effects too. Now here's what most people never hear from their doctor. There is one specific nutrient, one that most people over 50 are not getting nearly enough of, that plays a critical role in giving your heart the energy it needs to beat steadily and efficiently. And when levels of this nutrient drop, your heart is often one of the very first places to show the signs. That nutrient is vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. Now, you may not have heard much about B1. It doesn't get nearly as much attention as vitamin D or B12. But when it comes to heart health and energy production, especially in people over 50, it may be one of the most important nutrients your body depends on. Here's the simple version of how it works. Every cell in your body, and especially the cells in your heart, runs on a molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as the actual currency of energy inside your body. It's what powers every heartbeat, every muscle contraction, every breath you take. And to make ATP, your body needs thiamine. It's a critical step in the process. Without it, your cells quite literally cannot produce energy efficiently. Now imagine what happens to your heart when thiamine levels start to drop. The heart muscle becomes less efficient. It has to work harder to pump the same amount of blood. It may start to enlarge slightly just to compensate. The electrical signals that control your heartbeat can become irregular, leading to those flutters, those skipped beats, that racing feeling you can't explain. And on top of that, because your muscles and organs aren't getting energy efficiently, you start to feel breathless, even with very little activity. Tired all the time, heavy, slow. Does any of that sound familiar? But here's the part that really surprises most people. By the time your heart starts showing symptoms, B1 deficiency has usually already been building in your body for quite some time, because the heart isn't where it starts. The very first signs of low thiamine are often so subtle, so easy to brush off that most people don't even connect them to their heart symptoms at all. And this is where the real problem begins, because without knowing what you're looking for, it's incredibly easy to miss. So let me walk you through the early warning signs, because the sooner you catch this, the better the outcome. Let's talk about what low B1 actually looks and feels like, starting from the early signs, right through to the more serious symptoms that bring people to their doctor. The first thing people often notice is fatigue, not just normal tiredness. This is a deep, heavy exhaustion that doesn't go away with sleep. You wake up and you're already tired. You rest and you still feel drained. That's your cells struggling to produce energy the way they should. Then comes the tingling. Many people with low B1 start to feel strange sensations in their hands and feet, tingling, numbness, sometimes a pins and needles feeling that comes and goes. This is the nervous system beginning to feel the effects of inadequate thiamine. Muscle weakness is another common early sign. Your legs might feel heavy. Climbing stairs becomes harder than it used to be. You feel unsteady sometimes or notice your balance isn't quite right. Your muscles simply aren't getting the energy signal they need. Then there's the brain fog, difficulty concentrating, forgetting things more often than usual, feeling mentally slow or fuzzy. Thiamine is essential for brain function, and low levels can quietly affect memory and focus in ways that many people simply attribute to aging. Mood changes can also appear. Irritability, unexplained anxiety, a low mood that seems to come from nowhere. The nervous system depends heavily on B1, and when it's depleted, your emotional regulation can be affected too. And then, often later in the process, the heart symptoms begin. The palpitations, the shortness of breath, that feeling of pressure or tightness in the chest that doesn't seem to have a cause. In more severe cases, fluid can begin to accumulate in the legs and feet, causing swelling that can sometimes be mistaken for other conditions entirely. The medical term for severe B1-related heart complications is wet beriberi, a condition that was once common in populations with very poor nutrition and is now making a quiet comeback in certain at-risk groups. And one of those groups is adults over 50. So why is this happening? Why would someone who eats reasonably well end up low in something as important as B1? This is one of the most important questions, and the answer has several parts. The first reason is age itself. As we get older, our digestive system becomes less efficient at absorbing nutrients from food. Even if you're eating the same foods you've always eaten, your body may be extracting less from them than it used to. This affects many vitamins and minerals, and B1 is no exception. The second reason is medication. This one surprises a lot of people. Several very commonly prescribed medications can actually deplete B1 or interfere with how the body absorbs and uses it. Diuretics, water pills, are one of the biggest culprits. These are frequently prescribed for high blood pressure and heart conditions. And here's the cruel irony. The very medications being given to protect the heart may be quietly lowering the levels of a nutrient the heart desperately needs. Metformin, commonly used for type 2 diabetes, has also been linked to lower B1 levels over time. And long-term use of certain antacids can affect absorption as well. The third reason is diet. Thiamine is found in whole grains, legumes, pork, nuts, and seeds. But modern diets, particularly in older adults who may have reduced appetite or difficulty cooking, often don't include enough of these foods in meaningful quantities. Processed and refined foods have most of their B1 stripped away during manufacturing, and if someone relies heavily on packaged or convenience foods, their intake can drop significantly without them realizing it. The fourth reason is alcohol consumption. Even moderate but regular alcohol intake can significantly deplete B1 levels. Alcohol interferes with both the absorption and the storage of thiamine in the body. This is one of the most well-established nutritional effects of alcohol, and it's one that often goes unmentioned. And finally, high sugar intake. This one is less well-known but important. When the body processes large amounts of sugar and refined carbohydrates, it actually burns through thiamine faster than usual. So a diet high in sugary foods or refined carbs doesn't just fail to provide enough B1, it actively depletes what you already have. Put all of these together: aging digestion, common medications, a less than perfect diet, and perhaps an occasional glass of wine, and it becomes much easier to understand why so many people over 50 are unknowingly running low. The good news, and I really want to emphasize this, is that thiamine deficiency is one of the more correctable nutritional deficiencies out there. When levels are restored, many people notice meaningful improvements in their energy, their heart rhythm, and their overall sense of well-being. Sometimes quite quickly. So let's talk about what you can do. Start with food. The richest dietary sources of vitamin B1 include whole grains, brown rice, oats, whole wheat bread. If you've been eating mostly white rice or white bread, switching to whole grain versions is a simple and meaningful change. Legumes, black beans, lentils, edamame, and other beans are excellent sources of B1 and are also easy to incorporate into everyday meals. Pork, lean pork is one of the highest food sources of thiamine available. Even small portions eaten regularly can make a real difference. Sunflower seeds and flax seeds, easy to add to yogurt, salads, or smoothies, and surprisingly high in B1. Nuts, especially macadamia nuts and pistachios. Asparagus, spinach, and kale, good plant-based sources that are easy to include regularly. Fish, particularly trout, tuna, and salmon. The key here is consistency. A little of these foods regularly is better than a large amount occasionally. Consider a supplement. If you're concerned about your B1 levels, or if you take diuretics, metformin, or other medications that may affect absorption, a B1 supplement is worth considering. Thiamine supplements are widely available, generally very affordable, and considered safe at standard doses. The standard daily recommendation for adults is around 1.1 to 1.2 milligrams per day, but if there's already a deficiency, higher therapeutic doses are sometimes used under medical supervision. One form worth knowing about is called benfotiamine, a fat-soluble version of B1 that some research suggests may be absorbed and retained more effectively by the body than standard thiamine. It's available in most health food stores and pharmacies. If you take diuretics or other depleting medications, have a conversation with your doctor. This is important. Don't stop any medication on your own, but do ask your doctor whether your medications could be affecting your B1 levels and whether supplementation makes sense for you. A simple blood test can check your thiamine levels if there's a concern. Reduce refined sugar and processed carbohydrates where possible. This doesn't mean an extreme diet overhaul, but being mindful of how much refined food and added sugar you're consuming and replacing some of it with whole, nutrient-dense foods can help preserve the B1 your body already has. Moderate alcohol intake. If you drink regularly, even at moderate levels, this is one of the most impactful nutritional adjustments you can make, not just for B1, but for overall health. Let's bring it all together. Heart palpitations and shortness of breath after 50 are incredibly common, but they are not always what they seem. While it's always important to rule out serious cardiac conditions with your doctor, there is a quiet and often overlooked nutritional cause that deserves far more attention than it gets. Vitamin B1, thiamine, is essential for every cell in your body to produce energy. And your heart, which works harder than any other muscle you have, depends on it more than almost any other organ. When B1 levels drop, because of age, medication, diet, or other factors, the heart can begin to struggle. It may beat irregularly. It may work harder than it should, You may feel breathless, exhausted, and anxious without understanding why. The symptoms often build slowly. They're easy to dismiss, and they are very rarely traced back to something as simple and as fixable as a vitamin deficiency. But now you know what to look for, and knowing is the first and most important step. If you've been experiencing unexplained palpitations, persistent fatigue, tingling in your hands or feet, or breathlessness with minimal exertion, please mention thiamine to your doctor. Ask for a blood test. Ask about your medications. Start paying attention to the B1-rich foods in your diet. This is exactly why understanding hidden nutrient deficiencies matters so much, especially as we age. The solutions are often simpler than we expect. We just need to know where to look. If this video gave you something to think about, I'd really love to hear from you. Have you experienced unexplained heart palpitations or shortness of breath? Have you ever had your B1 levels tested? Drop a comment below. Your experience might help someone else watching this video today. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people find this kind of information when they need it most. And if you want to keep learning about the hidden nutritional deficiencies that affect your health after 50, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We cover exactly this kind of topic every week in plain language with no unnecessary medical jargon. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care of your heart. It's been working hard for you every single day of your life.